In this episode, we're gonna be Chucky. First and foremost, let's take a look at the small, intricate details about the reverse grip. I think that's really important to understand. There's two types of reverse grips, okay? You have the reverse grip out. I'm gonna go live blade for a second. We have the reverse grip out, which has the edge side faced away from us. Okay, and then we have the reverse grip in, which brings the edge side kind of facing our forearm, let's just say, all right? The reverse in grip typically has a very, very, very limited use in how you put it in application. And in all honesty, not that many people train it. Most of the reverse in grip is extremely offensive. So when the tactics for reverse in grip, when I started learning those from some of my instructors, it really kind of came trusted. You know, it came trusted in the sense that this isn't information that really goes into the public unless you have a small group. So I don't teach too much of the reverse in stuff, not to make it sound like, just is what it is. Today we're gonna be talking about the reverse out grip, and for my training blade, you can always identify the edge part for where the cross drilling is in the front of the blade, okay? All right, so reverse grip. First thing that we want to do is get yourself something that you guys can train with that's not a knife. Use a magic marker, use a training blade, use a pen, use something that is not an edge weapon, okay? Don't use, like you guys saw my post from the other day, at least a dozen times I've seen people stab themselves or slice themselves or do all kinds of other things unnecessarily because they were just too egotistical and it's only a knife, I got this kind of mindset, and then they end up cutting themselves, and I kind of laugh at them while I'm calling 911. So don't be that guy, all right? A lot of keyboard idiots out there. Okay, so reverse grip out. Let's take a look at the mechanics of this thing. You're gonna grip the handle side the same way you would grip standard, okay? The hands going around the handle, they don't change. What you do change though is where your thumb goes. We want the thumb to go on the top or on the bottom end of the knife, let's call it, okay? The puño end, the butt end of the knife. We want that. We always want that. And the reason for that is because when you have a thrusting motion, if you don't have your thumb on the cap of the knife, when you hit that hard substance like a breastplate or a bone, your hand slides onto the blade, and now you have a self-inflicted wound, might have lost some digits, okay? So in order to help us prevent that from happening, the solution's simple. Put a thumb to the top of the knife, so that way when you do make impact with a breastplate or bone or something, just a hard substance that's not gonna give away, that it just stops there. Now most knives these days are designed where they have curvatures at the bolster part, and that's to help you lock your fingers into place. Don't count on that. It helps, but it's not the cure-all. And then, functional knives typically have some kind of texturing that's around the grip side as well, and that'll help you hold on to the knife as well. But again, it's not going to prevent that high impact kind of a mix, right? It's just your fingers are going to keep coming onto the blade every single time. So we want to cap the knife, all right? Cap the knife. Do me a favor as we're moving along, just type in cap the knife, so that way I understand that everybody knows to put their thumb on the top of the knife, so that way I know what's going on. Okay. Joe Giacomino. Very good. Okay, so we understand reverse grip, the basic mechanics, and then the thumb going to the cap of the knife, right? To help prevent us from hitting a hard subject and going onto the blade. Next thing that we have to understand is some basic angles. Well, let's talk about the angulations of the blade. At the most, there should be a 90-degree between the spine of the blade and our forearm. So there's a 90-degree that happens right in here. In some places, we do pull this, the spine of the blade back inside of 90, but for the most part, out like 90. Never to the outside of 90, you'll lose the knife, right? So 90 degrees at the most, sometimes on the inside depending on the application, and that's really important to understand. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move along as well. Hi, Cindy. Okay, so we have the basic grip. We understand cap the knife. You understand that most of the time you want a 90 degree bend inside of the back of the knife and the bottom of the forearm, okay? Once you have that particular part of it down, we could start taking a look at what's the reverse grip used for. The reverse grip is typically used for what we call hacking, right? To be able to break through or power assist the blade through a breastplate, through hard bone. It's a close quarter type of a tactic in hard, and we're just kind of hacking. And short of it being a double-edged blade, which honestly doesn't really give you that many advantages. Most of the time you're better off with a single-edged blade. You hack and then you extract, okay? Because if you go into a hard subject like the breastplate and you try and pull the knife, well, spine is blunt and it's not going to make its way through tissue and organs and breastplate and bone matter and that kind of stuff. So typically it's an insert and back out, okay? Where the reverse in grip, now we can hack in and start to tear. So we can kind of saw our way through breastplate, bone matter, and that kind of thing, okay? So we have some basic understanding as far as where the reverse grip is utilized. That's primarily. Secondarily, that 90 degree hook that we have inside of our spine of the blade and the bottom of our hand is often used to capture and hook. And you can see how I start to butterfly my own wrist and forearm so you guys see over here. So when we start to work our way around punches or other weaponry, there's going to be these small articulations inside the blade. Okay, so that way we can hook and capture, pass, move things out, scoop things out of the way. All right, so we have some basic understanding there as far as that goes. Okay, so reverse grip, cap the knife, 90 degree, edge side forward, okay? And we understand that most of the uses for the reverse grip are going to be for hacking. Secondarily, we can use it to hook and pass, all right? So we'll get into that later on in a different live session, I think, where I can bring somebody else in and show you guys some applications there. Let's talk about angulations. Okay, you guys know in my standard grip, the 1 through 5, where I go from top right to bottom left is angle 1, top left to bottom right is angle 2, 3 is a horizontal line right to left, 4 is left to right horizontal line, and a 5 is a thrust in. Those kind of remain constant. First, let's talk about slashing with the blade, okay? Slashing with the blade, think about that same 5 angles. Now, I want you to look at this almost like you're elbowing somebody. For those of us who are edge weapons instructors or martial arts guys, we always say that the blade complements our unarmed stuff. This is one of those relationships. The angle 1, instead of in a standard grip going knife end forward, going down this way, now we're going to go in reverse grip and drive it with our elbow here, okay? That's our angle 1. And that's our angle 1. If I didn't have a knife, that's exactly how I throw my elbow, right? With the knife, without a knife. With the knife, without a knife. With the knife, and without a knife. Okay? You guys see that? Now, angle 2. Angle 2 is going to require us to turn our palm upwards. Okay? So we're going to go angle 1. We're going to roll this so that our palm goes up, and we'll drive back down. There's our angle 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Okay? Any questions so far? Just type in 1x2, 1 times 2, so that way I understand you guys have the first 2 angles down. Ariel, how are you? Good to see you. Okay. All right, so we have the angle 1 slash, angle 2 slash. Angle 3 is going to slash almost like we're throwing a body hook, okay? We're going to slash across the body. It's going to have the same rotation for the angle 4 and across our body again. So from the top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll do this for you guys one more time. Angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Now, a minute ago, we talked about this articulation of the blade, how it's 90 degrees or under. Watch how this looks. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a profile view of this thing. Angle 1 brings the blade inward and then drives. Can you do it like this? Yes, but the problem with it is that if you do hit a hard subject, it's going to pry the knife out of your hand. So we have to suck the spine of the blade back inward, make it like a 15-degree or 20-degree bend that's inside of here, and slash it this way. Same thing happens on the angle 2, except now, because of the motion, we're going to be at 90. Okay, so we're going to be at 90 right here. Angle 3 and 4, the blade side, the edge side should be just forward, okay? Just forward. So we're going to go across the abdomen and across the abdomen, across the abdomen, across the abdomen. So from the top, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, okay? Now, in the standard grip, the 5 is the forward thrust, okay? You obviously can't do the forward thrust the same way in a reverse grip, or else you'd be punching. So we have to do the angle 5 a little bit differently. If we have 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to chamber this knife back towards our chin and back forward. So we thrust this way. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Let me face the camera for you guys. We got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Type in 1 by 5 so that way I know that you guys have it, or 1-5, something 1 and 5. Type that in so that way I know that you guys understand angles 1 through 5. By the way, any questions so far? This is like all pretty simple stuff, right? Okay, so if you guys have any questions, by all means, okay, I'd like the interaction. Make sure you guys type it in, and I'll keep looking down. All right. I see the 1 by 5s coming in. Excellent. Good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, secondary angles are based off of the 1 through 5, so I'm not going to spend too much time on those things, okay? Just understand that, you know, we still have these off-angle backhanded thrusts or the open-handed thrusts, okay? So we'll get in that later on in life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So now that you have those 5 angles, what we have to understand is those angles are for slashing, going all the way through something. So it's typically a much shallower type of a cut. We're not really looking to power this in, except for that 5. The angle 5, we're going to drive that in as hard as we can. But the 1 through 4 are a little bit more superficial, and that's okay. Plenty of experiments that have been out there have been done. This is science. This isn't like Nick talking. 1 to 1.5 inch blade will push somebody's intestines right out of their belly. Okay, so like 1.5 inch cut is nothing, right? It's nothing. So we'll push the intestines right out. It can be a superficial cut. Superficial just means I didn't get down to organ and bone. And that doesn't mean it's not a lethal shot or an extremely devastating shot. And I want you guys to understand that that's the power of an edge weapon, is that whatever it touches, it cuts. Okay, so a very powerful concept, a very powerful tool that way. All right. In slashing, that's okay. The next thing that we have is hacking. And hacking requires what we call a whittick, or a retraction. And when you hack, the speed of the retraction is more important than the speed of the delivery. Okay, so the second 50% of the motion has to have more emphasis on it than the first 50%. And as a result of it, all of it's going to be faster. Okay, what we don't want to do is ape hang. We don't want to stay in there and keep driving and powering and all these other things. There's just no point for it. And we definitely don't want to go slow. Okay, so when we talk about retractions, the witik, okay, and some of you guys know this from a Kali stick, how to witik, halfway out and halfway back, halfway out, halfway back. Okay, think about those same 5 angles and witik them. We're going to go 1 and back, and then go over to 2 and back, and then go 3 and back, and then go 4 and back, and go 5 and back. Now the 5 is always a retraction, but the 1 through 4 typically are slashes. 1 and back, and 2 and back, and 3 and back, and 4 and back, and 5 and back. 1 all the way through, 2 all the way through, 3 all the way through, 4 all the way through, 5 has the extension. Then we have the witik. 1 in witik, 2 in witik, 3 in witik, 4 in witik, and then 5. Okay? Now the 3 and 4 might throw you off a little bit because we're fighting with the edge. When we were slashing, we were palm down on the angle 3. We were palm down and using the blade to come forward and through. And now it's the opposite. We're going palm up and we're puncturing that lung or puncturing the leg, puncturing the, around the rib cage and back out. On the angle 4, we were palm up. Now, because we're retracting, it's palm down. Boom, puncturing. Boom, puncturing. Boom, puncturing. Okay? And this is exactly why some people will stab their own shit, because they have not spent the time to understand what the difference is in the articulations of the blade slashing and what's the difference in thrusting and hacking. Okay? So, I want you guys to write retract for me real quick, so that way we understand that we're pulling this witik, this retraction. 1 through 5 on all angles has the witik. Sammy, how you doing, buddy? Been a long time since we've seen this. Okay. All right. So, recap so far. We talked about the grip. We talked about the capping of the knife. We talked about why we want to cap the knife, right? We don't want the hand to slide onto the blade. We talked about this 90-degree bend that goes between the spine of the blade and my forearm and how we operate the blade on the inside of that 90 degrees, okay? Then we went into angles 1 through 5 in slashing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Then we talked about the retraction that we need for hacking. 1 and back, 2 and back, 3 and back, 4 and back, 5 and back. And then we talked about the emphasis has to be on the retraction, not on the thrusting angle. Okay? So, I want to make sure everybody understands that. So just type in something, type in understood, that we understand all of those things, and if there's anything I can answer for you guys, let's answer that right now. Okay? Okay, so some variations between the straight blade standard grip and now into the reverse grip, right? And we haven't even grazed the surface, but you already start to see where there's a big difference. A second place that people often get hurt when it comes to reverse grip methods is that they don't have control of the front of the knife, okay? In my edge weapon system, for those guys who have taught or have done any of my online stuff, you always hear me say, I steer the front of the weapon, and as a result of it, I have control of all of the weapon, okay? And some people don't believe me why that's so important. Their focus becomes on the grip side of things, meaning on the bottom, and they want to drive power or speed or whatever immature attribute that they like, and then they hurt themselves. When you learn how to steer the front of the weapon, you understand how to have precision and control, accuracy, and fluidity in all of your motions. So, place number 2, I'm going to step back for this one. You guys will like this. I don't like this, but you'll like this. Place number 2 is that because in a gross motor movement, in a natural response of threat, a lot of times we'll kind of punch forward or have this pushing off kind of a motion. But if you're holding a blade and you're not understanding the rest of what's happening, where does that blade go? Into the groin or into the leg or into the belly, okay? And they go, oh shit, like that kind of stuff, all right? Or they go across their own body, and then they go wham, and then they crack themselves in the same leg.